Are you ready to get creative with your marketing, with your live streaming? Are you in a regulated industry where you have to work around all the rules and limitations and try and find your way to find the opportunities where they are versus what you were always told you can't do? Well, let's talk about how to add live streaming into your marketing and how you can make that work for your regulated industry, for your business. Are you with me? Let's go. We are here to talk about creative ways to incorporate live streaming when you're in a regulated industry. I'm Kendra Losey with Moda Marketing, and before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. So I am the host of Cannabis Marketing Live, all puff, no fluff. I am an award-winning marketer. I'm an adjunct professor teaching marketing and social media as my side gig. I love it. And I'm also a cannabis and hemp CBD marketer, helping those businesses do what it takes to be recognized, remembered, and referred. It's awesome. I've been teaching online for nearly 10 years, and I've been live streaming for 3 years now. I love it, and you are going to love it too, because it is an amazing way to add it into your regulated industry. And you know what the secret is? Not many businesses that are in regulated industries are using live streaming. So there are 10 plus a few extras ideas in here that you can use to get started today. But first, I want to step back for a minute. There's famous studies. There's a book called A Beautiful Constraint that talks about how to use constraints and limitations and rules as a way to springboard your business and find those ways around. So essentially what all the studies show is that when you have some sort of constraints or limitations or obstacles, it actually can inspire creativity versus hinder it. So the idea is to flip how you think about your obstacles and what those limitations and rules and regulations are, and actually use them as challenges and find your way through. And that's where the creativity sparks. It is amazing how you can look at all of the different things that might feel like they're putting you inside a box and then make it work with you. So whether you've been, when we look at the innovations and the creativity that's come out of everyone being quarantined, there's amazing sparks of creativity everywhere with all of us and among us during this time. And a lot of it is just the limitations that you need to find to spark that creativity. So when we look at the different levels of regulations, who wants to talk about rules, right? But when we look at the levels of regulations, there are many different areas that potentially businesses can find them. So federal regulations, advertising best practices, marketing best practices, the FTC, and all of those. You might have state level. You could have local or city or county or municipality level. Then you could have regulations for your industry, if you're in healthcare, finance, or some of those. Or your company could have rules that you need to follow. Your partners that you work with might have rules that you need to pay attention to, as well as platforms and tools. They absolutely have rules about who they will work with and who they won't work with, and what you need to adhere to in order to be able to use them. And then there's also a self-regulation. There is a lot of self-regulation that can happen when you start to look at not just the county and the city, but you can look at the impact of self-regulation in terms of advertising and marketing and messaging, and those companies that try to adhere to the best practices. All of that comes into play. And all of those things are coming at you when you're a marketer in a regulated industry. Now, there's different levels of regulation when it comes to the industries that are regulated, right? So some of the top regulated industries that people typically think of are medical or financial services, and especially alcohol and tobacco. When I worked in higher ed, I worked in higher ed for 8 years and plus worked with several higher education clients. I still work with a higher education client, and there are things from FERPA that you have to pay attention to. And those are, once again, federal regulations that you need to pay attention to when you're marketing. But I've never seen any regulations in all the industries I've worked in. I've never seen any regulations that are similar to those in cannabis. Since it is federally illegal, it's regulated state by state, and even the county and cities have different ideas about what can happen. So once again, we're self-regulated, federally regulated, state regulated, and more. So for this presentation, I'm going to stick with cannabis as the examples because of the extreme regulation that this gray area industry lives in. Not being able to use financial services and banks and all those things. All of those things are one set of rules and limitations. The marketing regulations, particularly in the state of California, are crazy. Now, if you're in Canada, they're also crazy. There's certain things you have to adhere to and that you absolutely cannot do. And they really limit what your impact can be. So that's why I want to take the most extreme example, because these other industries are going to make it look easy once you see some of the challenges that cannabis marketers face or cannabis businesses face. So as we focus on the most regulated industry, I mentioned that the regulations differ state by state. In California, you cannot put up any advertising unless 71.6% of the people who will see it are over the age of 21. So billboards, radio, television, anything along, well, you can't do television, but anything along those lines are very strictly monitored. Now, there are some exceptions to the television, but we'll set that aside for now. Now, when you look at paid media, you cannot run paid ads for cannabis companies, not legally anyway. Some people find workarounds, and you can't run social media ads for cannabis. So if you can't run ads, except for on display networks, and you can't run traditional media, for give or take, and several of the digital platforms, whether it's email, texting, any of those platforms, a lot of those don't allow cannabis. What can you do? How do you find a way to break through? Now, the other thing we need to pay attention to are the rules. So you need to know a few things as you go into live streaming. You need to know your goals. You need to know your audience. And the other thing is you need to know your tolerance to risk. There are companies whose Instagram pages or social media accounts, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they get shut down randomly without any notice. And once those accounts are shut down, they're incredibly hard to get back up. Most people don't manage it. So what do? And that's where the risk tolerance comes in, because you need to really understand what those rules are in order to know how to get around them. And I don't mean break them. I mean to work within them and use them as an opportunity to get creative. And that's why we're here. LinkedIn is its own thing. They're more open to cannabis, but the biggest rule about all of these is you can't sell drugs or anything similar. So when we're looking at all of these rules and regulations, that's why we're looking at live streaming, because when you get creative and you add your live video, brands can stand out. You can get rid of those stay on the path rules, and you can get rid of those limitations, and you can have fun. And that's what this is all about, is having fun with what you're doing and being passionate about it and excited about sharing your brand. So for the sake of this presentation, I broke it down. There's two types of events, especially now with everything that's happened in 2020. There's more one-time events, and then there's regular and consistent content. So I broke it into those two categories. Now, two examples of live stream event, one-time events. The first one was hosted by a company called Event High. They did a 24-hour live streaming cannabis event. And really the goal was to connect the community and provide education. Education is really limited. Accurate education is really limited in the cannabis space. So the more people who are putting out accurate information about it, the better it's going to be. So that was one example. 24 hours, a different person slated every hour. And then the second one is from the House of Jane and Women Empowered in Cannabis, Toketivity in White Buffalo, and they're putting on a 420 celebration. So that's a whole other networking and education event. And those are two examples. There's quite a few coming up now that everyone's ramping up online, but those are two examples of one-time opportunities. Okay, there's regularly scheduled content. This is content that is consistent and ongoing, and it can be on any type of platforms. For regulated industries and cannabis specifically, a lot of people have created platforms and tools that are specific to cannabis. And that is because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of accounts were getting shut down and it just was not consistent and it wasn't helpful to the cannabis community and business leaders in the community and influencers to be able to maintain that level of trying to do your business. And all of a sudden you have 100,000 Instagram followers and they're all gone when the account gets shut down. And so as a result, innovative people in the industry, and I think this happens in other industries as well, have created platforms that are specific to people in the industry or sophisticated users. So for example, WeTV, and even on even on YouTube and Twitch, there are shows like The Grow Show, and really focusing on helping people understand how to grow cannabis and what it takes. So when you start to look at the different platforms, you really want to make sure and pay attention to your goals about what you're doing. Now, when we start to look at, we're starting with 10 plus a few creative ideas on what you can do for your live stream. So the first is education. And this example is Taya over at Crooked Cactus, and she did a 10-day 10 C's of CBD series that was consistent. It was regular. She did it every single day. And your education can vary. It can be short talks, formal presentations, discussions. As long as it's regularly scheduled and consistent, it's going to become trusted. Another way to do it is to launch new products and services. You can tease them out ahead of time, and then once they launch, you can go into a separate launch plan and post-launch plan and actually keep sharing content during that time. People love the tease, they love behind the scenes, they love the secret insights, and so you could have a lot of fun with a live show or live content that is really highlighting those new products or new services. Now, shameless plug, you can also do interviews. So for example, for my show, I interview industry leaders and I interview marketing leaders, and sometimes they're both. And sometimes there are people who are outside the industry, but either way, I bring in experts who are trusted people to give advice to help others. And you can do roundtables, you can interview customers, business partners, and more. So it can be a lot of fun, and it doesn't have to be boring, just like a regular interview. Another way is how to. So you can use products, and so you can use your products to demonstrate how to use them, what to use them, what to do, how to create something, and you can use that to create an experience. So if you're doing a cooking demonstration, or if you're doing making different drinks with different alcohol products, or if you're doing a live stream on how to, roll a joint, or if you're doing a live stream on how to play blackjack, whatever that is going to be something where you can show people how to do it. Now, you do have some limitations, particularly if your regulated industry is firearms, but there are some great how-to videos and ideas out there. But once again, you want to take it and align it with your brand and make it that experience. Now, the next one is show the magic behind your brand. And I love this one. And this is one that no one I've seen in the cannabis industry has taken advantage of. There was a movie that came out last year called The Biggest Little Farm. And it was an entire movie that had cameras all over the farm, and they created a story with that. Now, cannabis farms could do this. Vertically integrated companies where they're doing everything from growing to extraction to creating products and selling the products could easily do this. It's just showing that unique thing that makes the company or the business or the brand yours. And it's a magical thing that you can do, and you can use it to tell a story. So sometimes it's as much as finding those pieces and putting them together to create and tell that story. And it can be done consistently in different ways, and it really does become magic. Now, another idea is you could host shared experiences. So there's a lot of people that do cooking or yoga online or meditation or book clubs or, art or creating crafts or what have you. But when you start to add that extra element, so if you are a CBD company, you can have people sign up for your meditation and send them the CBD. If you're a book club, you can send them the books. Include a soundtrack with it, a playlist on Spotify. You can actually use your live stream to create something that uses more senses than just the visual and audio. If you have something that they can taste, or if you have something they can listen to, you can actually create a very sensory experience through your live stream by incorporating some of the other elements in it. If you're creating a cooking show, you can send them the list of the recipe and what they need that's specific to your brand. It's a little harder when you're looking at financial services or what have you, but there's opportunities and ideas out there. These are just a few that you can use to work this magic and create this really fun, exciting live stream that represents your brand. So that is another idea. Now, this one goes back to if you have a farm or if you have access to nature, if that's included as part of your brand. Obviously for cannabis it is. But I'm personally in love with watching the sharks and the penguins and the otters at the Monterey Bay Aquarium with their live cameras. They have live feeds all over the aquarium and they just let it run on YouTube, and you can go, and some of them have music, some of them don't, but you can watch the otters frolic or the penguins just kind of march around or what have you. But you can do this potentially with your business. I mean, shoot, if you had an office, and even if there's 1 or 2 people in it, it just make people, especially after being quarantined for so long, just be able to feel like they're working next to somebody. But it's calming and soothing if you're focused on nature. Once again, if it fits into your brand and if there's a way to do it, it's an interesting thing. There's nothing educational about it. It's just an ongoing live stream that is another way to connect with people. And another way to make people feel something where they're going to be used to seeing you, hearing from you, and you being in their space. Now, this is a fantastic example that I love. So Kate Manson of Tarot CBD leverages her brand by combining the tarot aspects of her CBD branding with weekly live stream tarot readings. So tarot card readings. So she does readings every Wednesday night or so. And once again, it fits beautifully into her brand. She put that in place, knowing her. She put it in place because that's what was going to work for her, but it's just phenomenal how she was able to do it. And it's classy. She puts it together. It fits. It's not trying to force something. So think about your brand and what you do and what you represent and how you could do something along those lines. Not everyone's going to have tarot in their name of their brand. I get it. But there's different things that you can do that would be, once again, interactive and fun and visual and give people that experience of as you go through your live stream. It doesn't have to be all serious. Another one that I am in love with is you can help people create together. So whether you're doing a tutorial, not just a demonstration, but encourage them to cook with you, encourage them to draw with you, encourage them to make jewelry, do crafts, count money, whatever it is, set up a drinking game, whatever it is, you want to do it in that interactive space where it becomes you're starting to build your tribe, where people like us are creating together. That's what we're doing. And so Mo Williams is doing daily lunch doodles and showing kids, this is for kids, he's showing kids how to draw characters from his phenomenal children's books. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It could be simple and it can be fun and engaging. And once again, it's something that people want to have in their space. They want to log on, they want to watch, and they want to be a part of it. So another is ask the experts. So the experts of your company, whether they're employees or bud tenders or bartenders or scientists and healthcare professionals. Ask them. Find someone with a great personality or a quirky personality or someone who's unique and really can help represent the brand, and ask them questions. Ask other employees questions. How do you do XYZ? Get these consumer questions answered, and you can really have fun with it. And once again, you can make it serious, or you can really just liven it up and do some fun things. Okay, the last two on this list are the bonus ones, are interviews on the street. You can go and interview people in front of your store if you have a location. Online, if you don't, you can interview customers, event attendees, random strangers. The list is endless, really, and the street is relative, especially now. But you can make it work, and you can take that and just have fun with it. You know, the late night TV shows some of them have made a science over accosting strangers and asking them random questions on the street, whereas Billy on the Street actually made it into a show for a while and built some of it, part of his career on that, chasing down strangers and yelling at them. I don't recommend quite to that effect unless it fits in your brand. But as you look at this entire list, you want to pay attention to who's your audience, what is your goals, what are you trying to do, and have fun with it. You know, if it fits it in, just make sure whatever you decide aligns with your brand and your goals and your audience, you'll be golden. It's fantastic. So ultimately, creativity involves breaking out of the expected patterns in order to look at things a different way. How can you look at all those rules and all those people telling you, no, you can't do something, and all those regulations, no matter where they're coming from and bombarding you? How can you look at them a different way and make them into challenges that you need to overcome or slip through on the side? Thank you very much for all your time and watching. I'm excited about this. There's so many ideas and there's so much fun you can have with this. And if you want even more ideas about marketing for regulated industries, you can go to motamarketing.com/playbook and download the marketing playbook for regulated industries. All right. Thank you so much. Be sure and drop a line and say hi and connect with me on social, all the things. It's been great. I'll go back to my border of being trapped. Thank you guys. Don't forget motamarketing.com/playbook, and we will see you there.